I have been waiting all week and it is finally tractor day in the shop. Got the old lady in here and we are going to do a lot of repair and improvement today. First off, since it won't start currently with the 6-volt system, we've got a 12-volt setup there from Steiner Tractor. We'll be getting rid of the old generator and all the wiring associated with it. I rewired this years ago with the hood on, but today, since we've got the equipment to do it, we're going to pull the hood off to where we can get to everything, do the 12-volt change, then we'll rebuild the steering gearbox, which will be much handier since we can take the hood off and get into it. I'll probably pull it completely off the tractor. And then we've got odds and ends to do, like cleaning out the fuel tank. Found some hoses last night at Tractor Supply, so we're able to change out the coolant hoses and the coolant, because who knows how long it's been since that happened. So right now, we'll take out a couple of bolts, get the front bumper out of the way. Then there's a bolt down here, one on each side. The bolts that go around the cowling here. And what else? Oh, we're draining the fuel right now because the tank goes with the hood. And I'm going to take this breather piece off here because I probably won't be using it in the future. Make sure, see how it's attached to the oil bath canister underneath. And then we'll be ready to lift the hood off. Finally, I'm going to leave the bolt in there until I get ready to put a new one in, because this suspension is well, it's not suspension, it's the track width is adjustable. You can move this in and out because you got a plate back here, plate in front, and well, you still got a bolt here, and it looks like they may be grooved together. I'm still going to leave that bolt in there until it's time to change it. So now, we'll get the 2 bolts out of the front of the cowling. Maybe. Both of these bolts broke free easily. They've been changed at one point or another because they both have different head sizes. One's 5/8 and one's 11/16. I'll leave them in until I'm actually ready to pull it off. Now we'll go out and take the bolts off the cowling. These bottom 2 bolts are in threaded holes in the deal, it looks like. The top 2 have got nuts on the back side, so we'll get another wrench. Of course, different hardware all around. Okay. Speed nut plate that's seen its better days. So that just pushes in with the rubber gasket. I couldn't remember how that was set up. We've got it out of the way anyway. Because that hadn't had the glass jar on it since, well, as long as I can remember. And I definitely also need to do something. Now clean out the tank, pull the sediment bowl, because that's some pretty pathetic fuel flow. It kind of flows a little bit, then it quits. Well, I was just looking to see how the grill come out, and it pretty much fell out on me. But you got these little tabs on the side. The little nub sticks up, so you just push those down, and the front folds out. And then it's got some levers that just slide out on the bottom. Of course, the cap's got to come off because the radiator stays. The old girl's rolled underneath the ceiling hoist now. We'll see if we can't lift this hood. They got a little tension on it. I'll go ahead and take those 2 front lower bolts completely out. If you've got headlights hooked up, you'll also have to undo the headlight wire. But there's a wire going across in there, but doesn't look like it's hooked to anything. Well, that went about like expected. Could have been worse. Could have been better. Have you ever seen an 8-in Ford with no hood, a beer keg as a gas tank? You may see that. That thing's, yeah, it's a little rotten on the sides, but nothing I can't fix. I haven't touched the thing on the air cleaner. Check this out. Wonder how long it's had good air filtration. Oh, jeez. We're going to take that oil bath off next. And then pull the battery, get it out of the way. Looks like the oil bath's about to fall off anyway. Tractor may end up being the equivalent of a T-bone. And I'll build a new battery box because I'm going to have a different size battery. I'm going to use the same size battery I use in my little jet boat in here. That way, when the jet boat's battery gets a little old, it goes in the tractor. Tractor's battery will be recycled. Because I can roll start this. Can't roll start the boat. Now let's get this baby off there. Then we'll get rid of a bunch of wiring. Because all of this stuff, voltage regulator, all of this here will go. I'm actually surprised I made it that long without cutting crap off of power tools. And none of these bolts have been tight. They're like all half unscrewed. I don't know if somebody's been in here. It's hard. Battery tray out of the way. Ugh. It's amazing. Most of this stuff worked as good as it did. Pull these wires loose from the ammeter because the ammeter does still work just fine. I did such a nice job of wiring this many years ago. Now it's time to just start cutting some stuff. It is a 1-wire alternator, so we won't need the regulator anymore. Pull it off. Next up, I'll unbolt this regulator. Get it out of there. All right. That's gone. Now I think I'll take a second and grab the shop vac and clean some of this mess up. Okay, next up we're going to be pulling the alternator off. It's got a slide bracket there. It has an Allen bolt here that holds that clamp. And then down in here, a couple of bolts on the pivot. So we'll take what we need to get loose to get the belt off. Then we'll pull all this bracketry off because I don't think any of it gets reused. I'll figure it out here quickly. But that needs to come off and then we can clean up that area and get ready to put the new alternator on. Loosen the band clamp. Generator slid out. Now we need to take this bolt off because that slide is mounted to a plate that is behind the water pump, so it's got to stay. Now if I can get the 2 nuts undone, where it goes to the block, I can wouldn't have to take these other 2 bolts out. There's one. Well, these are studs. They're both coming out, unscrewing from the block. Hopefully, kit's got some new bolts in it. So that bracket is off, just leaving 2 cast-in bosses on the side of the block. Look this old thing. I want to leave that in there. Make sure that it's the right size. Water pump's got a little bit of slack in it, but it's not leaking. And now, I'm going to do a little scraping and cleaning right down in there where the alternator will go. This will all get cleaned more in the future. I've got a sandblaster attachment for the pressure washer. Right now, I'm just wanting to get it all going again so I can use it a little bit. If I have to take the alternator back out to clean in there, not a big deal. I think while I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and pull the radiator. It's got a few issues. One, the overflow tab hose. The overflow line is broke off. The shroud, I'm going to pull it off there because it's kind of torn up. Repair it as much as possible, because if I keep the mechanical fan, it's good to have the shroud on there to direct the airflow. Now while we've got it off, we'll take the radiator out and gently blast it out at the car wash and get it cleaned up. While we got the hood off, we might as well make sure it's in good shape. All right, coolant's coming out. Looks pretty good. Seems like I changed that at some point there in the past. The drain was your standard drain cock, but it was all seized up, so I just buzzed it off and took it out with a socket. That's just pipe fitting. I'm thinking I will just put a pipe fitting back there and into that one there, the drain in the side of the block, because it's not like I'm going to be needing to drain this stuff very often. The block definitely needs a good flush. I had to do quite a bit of poking around in there before I ever got to any coolant. But that's right at the bottom of the cylinders. That's kind of to be expected. Okay, time to remove the hoses so we can get this radiator out of there. Yeah, no. Like I mentioned earlier, Tractor Supply had new hoses right on the shelf. Oh, rusty, slightly crusty. Oh, there we go. One down. Now, how's the radiator coming? 2 bolts on the bottom. I got a bad feeling about this. Well, one nut came off the bottom of the radiator, no problem. The other one is just spinning. They use this bracket along the bottom tank. Looks like it's got a carriage bolt up in there. And I'd say all the edges of the bolt are gone. So I've got that pushed apart enough. And I think I can go in and buzz off the bolt without destroying the radiator. If I keep messing with trying to get the bolt undone, it is going to destroy the radiator. And there we go. Yep, that's exactly how it was. A carriage bolt slipped in there and the sides just rounded off or it moved over or something. That should be easy enough to fix. Now the front end of the tractor is really naked. Get in there and do a little more cleaning. There was a bit of crap in that pocket there under the front pulley. Yeah, it's going to need a lot of pressure washer work once I get it mobile. Okay, we're sitting here on the floor looking at these parts for this conversion. Here's your bracketry. Your coil, it is internally resisted, so it doesn't need an external resistor. 1-wire alternator over there, which they apparently didn't want to know where it came from because they cut the label off. Wiring harness. And a couple of cowtails. Nice addition. I think I'll have one of them. Now, I was hoping that the bracketry went straight to the block, but what it does is here's the old generator bracket. I'll take this piece off here and use this U-shaped piece. Then this piece bolts in to the U-shaped piece, and then alternator goes here, and the rest of this is for your adjustment. No, first off, I need to take this apart and clean this up so I can use that U-bracket. Believe it or not, I actually found a couple of bolts in the old bolt bucket that were useful. They were too long because these bosses are shallow, so I cut the heads off, threaded them in there with some blue Loctite to make studs out of them, which was how it was set up before. Now we can put the generator bracket back on and then put the alternator stuff on it. Okay, the alternator bracket's on. I reused the original hardware here because I didn't have anything else to put in its place, and this stuff was in really good shape, just dirty. Okay, we got these brackets on. This piece here bolts in down there where the factory generator went. I did have to find a longer bolt for that, but the bolt bucket came to again. Because you're adding this on the side, I used the original bolt over here, but it's a little short for that side. You have a bolt go through here to attach to that water pump fitting. And then once you raise the alternator up, this bracket hooks in there and hooks in there to give you the adjustment. So I'll go ahead and get this set up, make sure this old belt works before I get another one just like it. Coil is mounted on there. Had to modify the bracket a little bit. It had the ears sticking just straight out on both sides. This one needs one at the, well, they need to be at a 90 degree to each other. And the funny thing was the old bracket was mounted on there, and this ear here was just kind of floating out in midair. Wasn't bolted to anything. So I go to digging around, and there was a hole right here that was just packed full of mud. Hadn't had a bolt in it in years. Cleaned it out, run a tap through it, and we have bolts in both sides now. And the bolt bucket came in handy again. Found another bolt that worked on it. So right now, I think we'll start hooking some wires up. Then we can, I took the radiator out to the car wash. We'll get it put back on here, get the plugs back in. All right, what I want to do right now is build a new battery tray to go in here. Just going to make it out of some angle. Put another piece of angle on the bottom facing down so I can bolt it into these two holes here. And just make it to where it fits that battery there, which is a group 26. That's what I use in the boat. That's what I'll be using in here. So now I just need to get cutting and welding. What we've got so far. Cut a piece of angle, trimmed it down to where it fits in those two case bolts, like the original battery tray did. Welded this little tray up. We'll get it positioned where I want to try to keep it as far to the right, that way, as possible, so it doesn't, where it doesn't interfere with the throttle linkage. And I'll weld it, mark it, weld it onto the angle. I realized once I get the hood on, the original battery tray didn't have a ledge here so you could slide the battery out this way. Depending on, I think that battery I'm using is a little smaller than the 6 volt that was in there. So maybe I can get it up and over the lip. If not, I'll trim it down later. That'll just be after the hood is on. And then, of course, I still haven't ruled out putting a beer keg here, and running no hood. Make it like a T-bucket tractor. But who knows? Right now, I need to get this welded together so we can finish wiring and see if it'll turn over. All right, got the mount welded onto the box. And I usually weld all this stuff like this with the MIG, but it's next door, and it's cold and rainy out, so the TIG was over here, so I just used it. Can't argue with the results. TIG does a great job. So I think since this is bare metal, freshly welded, I'll shoot a little paint on it, let it dry. Wife's out getting battery cables right at the moment, so hopefully we can hook something up. Okay, the battery mount is bolted in there. Nothing interferes. I've set the battery in it here. There's the battery in. Everything seems really solid. If I ever have any trouble, I may run a brace, weld it on there, and run it up to this bolt hole. But I mean, that's pretty solid. As far as a hold down to the battery, I know it's kind of rednecky, but I'm probably just going to take a big wide zip tie and run it all the way around, as that works really well. Anything else you put across the top of a battery ends up corroding. Zip tie doesn't. I did get the radiator in. I didn't have exactly the right size carriage bolts I needed, so I used one size smaller, but they fit in there okay. Put some little rubber pads underneath. You would not believe the amount of crap that came out of the fins of that radiator. I will work on this tomorrow. But the hoses are on. And that makes a really good mounting system for it. Gives it a little vibration protection. Holds it in place good. I had really hoped to get it cranking over or whatever tonight, but I think I'm going to call it tonight. I'm getting tired. There's always tomorrow. No reason to rush it. It's a fun project. Thanks for watching.